Thank you, Heather and David, for your kind words. Before I start, I'd like you to take a quick look at this.
Hello, I'm Graham Trusgill, Executive Director at BIBA, and I'm here in Yorkshire with Liz and Jason, and we're here to talk about the fact that you're in the BIBA manifesto this year. Can you tell us your story?
Jason is terminally ill. He's got 2 life-limiting conditions, motor neuron disease and Fabry disease. We raised a lot of money last year, over £15,000, to go on our dream trip to Disney World, Florida, but unfortunately we're unable to find insurance that would cover Jason.
We had contemplated going to land in France, but obviously that wasn't what we wanted to do. So obviously through pushing we got to go to World, which was something I really wanted to do, and I mean the kids had an absolute fabulous time.
Oh, I bet they did.
You know, well, we all did, you know, and it meant a lot to be able to get there.
Yeah, I bet it did. So how did you solve the problem?
We exhausted all possibilities, really. So in desperation I put out a tweet, and it was picked up by Greg Broadhurst, who is an association volunteer for the Motor Neuron Disease Association and also an insurance broker. He retweeted it, and it was picked up by BIBA, and they got in touch with us and said they would really like to help. So through BIBA they were able to find us a specialist insurance broker who was able to insure Jason with 2 life-limiting conditions at a very reasonable price.
And what advice would you give to other families who are in your situation?
Obviously anybody in our situation with really complex medical needs like Jason, rather than going through, rather than going on the internet and doing these comparison sites, I would advise anybody to go through broker service, because they have specialist knowledge of these conditions and are able to find somebody who can help and meet all your needs.
That's why we're here. It's what insurance brokers do, and it's why me and the BIBA team are proud to be your trade association. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to BIBA 2016, the go-to place. We give considerable thought each year to our conference theme. As you've just seen, insurance brokers are the go-to place for advice, choice, and expertise when seeking insurance protection. Insurance brokers are responsible for 54% of all general insurances written in the UK and 78% of all commercial business. And as you've heard me say before, but it is well worth repeating, insurance brokers and intermediaries are responsible for 1% of UK GDP. The UK's insurance market and the London market and Lloyd's are world-renowned, the go-to place for business across the globe. The London market employs 48,000 people. It generates £60 billion of exports, and in the last 5 years has paid out £140 billion in claims. And BIBA is becoming more and more the go-to place for government, the regulator, policymakers and the press for informed opinion on general insurance matters, as I will demonstrate later. So our theme will clearly resonate with you all. A big thank you at this time to our key principal conference sponsors, Ageas, Aviva and AXA. Your support for this conference is gratefully received and helps ensure it remains the premier insurance event in Europe. Our delegates today have come from far and wide. I'm delighted to welcome our good friend Nick de Maschalk, Director of the European Federation of Insurance Intermediaries, BIPA, who has flown in from Brussels. I'm also particularly pleased to welcome attendees from Australia, Belgium, Bulgaria, Canada, France, Germany, Gibraltar, Hungary, Ireland, Luxembourg, Malta, Nigeria, Romania, South Africa and the USA. Welcome to you all. Now, when you sat down this morning, I hope you noticed the red and green double-sided card on your seat. To dispel a whisper that's going around the auditorium, this has nothing to do with the Brexit debate. But what we are going to do, we're going to indulge in a little audience participation now, so will you please play along with me? Apparently, I've borrowed this concept from a well-known TV show, courtesy of Lord Sugar. If you've thrown your card on the floor, bend down and pick it up and play along. What I'd like you to do is hold up the card with the green side facing forward if insurance was your choice of career when you left school. If, on the other hand, you fell into insurance as a career, hold it up with the red side facing forward. So hold it up now for me, please. I think you can see from there that we have a sea of red, which marks me down as being a little bit odd, because if I had a card, mine would have been a green one, because mine was a positive decision to come into insurance. My father was a Norwich Union, or a BIBA for the younger members of the audience, inspector throughout my young childhood, working out of their offices in Romford, then Enfield, then Hendon, and then into London. I can clearly remember being taken by Dad one Saturday morning to a fire-damaged shop, and two things stuck in my mind that day. Firstly, the extent of the damage and the lingering smell of smoke. I'd never smelled anything like it before, that was for sure. And the damage. The shopkeeper had done his best to start clearing up, but I recall thinking it was going to take him quite a while. But secondly, how happy the shopkeeper was as Dad went through some papers and handed over a claims cheque. That interest in the positive impact that insurance can have remained through my time at senior school, and I spent the summers of 1975, 76 and 77 in what was Norwich Union's Mansion House branch before joining them full-time on completion of A-levels in October 77. So whilst my peers were discovering the Sex Pistols and the Clash, I was discovering the Norwich Union's filing system. That interest in insurance soon turned into a passion, and I still have it to this day. It's that passion for insurance broking that gets me out of bed at 5 a.m. every weekday. A passion for what the sector does, the happiness we create, the peace of mind we bring to many by identifying and mitigating their risks, and for those unfortunate enough to suffer a loss, the help we can provide in putting them back in business or repairing or replacing lost or damaged property. We do something for the customer that they cannot do for themselves, as we saw with Mr. and Mrs. Liversidge just now. We can change lives. My life changed 3 years ago when I fulfilled a long-held ambition by becoming BIBA's chief executive. And the first person I told was my dad, and needless to say, he was quite chuffed for me. At my first conference as CEO in 2013, I spelt out for you 3 commitments. Promises about how me and the BIBA team would raise our game to give you the peace of mind knowing that BIBA is looking after your interests. Firstly, I committed to greater visibility of the BIBA executive. Our annual autumn tour of the regions, plus the various speaking engagements we undertake, demonstrates the delivery of this commitment. Because in spite of the new technologies, face-to-face communication still works best. Secondly, I committed the association to be better at sitting down and listening to you, our members. The advisory board structure that David mentioned earlier that we put in place to represent members has allowed us to fine-tune our listening to the different issues that arise across the broad church of BIBA membership. Thirdly, I committed the association to be better at standing up and speaking out on the issues that matter to you. And let me tell you, in the last 3 years, we've done an awful lot of sitting down and standing up. This has led us to better targeted lobbying and exerting more influence when and where it matters. The best example of this came at last year's Conservative Party conference here in Manchester. During the Business Day event, Graham Trudgill and I caught up with the Secretary of State for Business, Innovation and Skills, Sajid Javid, just prior to him going on stage. We asked him about the Enterprise Bill and the list of regulators who would be subject to new requirements. The bill, which has now been enacted, will force these regulators to be more accountable for the economic effect of their regulations. We asked Sajid whether the FCA would be on the list. When he answered yes, we asked him to confirm again, and he said, "They're on the list. Job done, boys. I know it's important to you. You can probably go home now." We didn't go home, but we did high five at the first opportunity. A key part of our lobbying is our manifesto, and as David said, there should be one on each seat. This year's manifesto is, in my opinion, our best yet. It looks good, the content is what you told us was important to you, and it's been well received by the politicians. Don't just take my word for that. This is what MP Craig Tracy thinks of our manifesto.
Hi, I'm Craig Tracy, Member of Parliament for North Warwickshire and Bedworth. Before I was an MP, I was actually an insurance broker for nearly 20 years, so I know all too well the burdens that are placed on the industry, especially from regulation. I've met today with Steve, Andy and Graham from BIBA to discuss their manifesto, and I think it's an excellent document which clearly and concisely puts together the issues that the industry face, but also puts them in a way that's useful for MPs and parliamentarians to put them into practice and give our help to them in Parliament.
The BIBA 2016 Manifesto, Fairness for All, has been created following engagement with over 600 of our member firms. And to those members present today who contributed their time and efforts, a very big thank you. It sets out 30 campaigning issues across 9 broad headings. It contains 14 commitments, areas where we at BIBA will help to achieve fairness for our members and their customers. There are 17 endorsements from senior stakeholders, including 3 ministers and a select committee chairman. The first time we've had such senior government backing in our manifesto, evidence that we are becoming the go-to place for government. Whilst now is not the time or place to go through the manifesto in detail, what I will do is pick out just a few key issues for you and update you with the latest position, starting with the Insurance Act. At BIBA 2015, we launched in conjunction with McTavish an introductory guide to the Act. During our autumn tour of the regions last year, it became crystal clear from the feedback we received that members had a real need for support on how to comply with the new legislation and its implementation. So we re-engaged with McTavish to build with us an implementation guide, addressing key issues such as what might be a reasonable search and a fair presentation of the risk. That implementation guide is released today, so if you don't have one, you'll find them on the McTavish and BIBA stands in the exhibition hall and on the BIBA website. And a big thank you to the sponsors of the guide, Ageas and RSA. At noon today, there is a seminar session in here dedicated to the Insurance Act with a panel that includes the ex-Law Commissioner, the man who wrote the legislation, David Herzl, and Bruce Hepburn of McTavish. Now the guide has been published, let us all unite behind the content for the benefit of our customers. Our autumn tour showed us the weight of member interest in underinsurance, so I'm delighted with the underinsurance guide we issued last month. Let me take this opportunity to thank the guide sponsors, Chubb and Hiscox. This is an important document as it is our direct response to the FCA's thematic review of SME claims, and copies are available on the BIBA stand. I've had many members and insurers say to me recently that in light of the difficulty in getting planning consent granted in 12 months, the days of having 12-month indemnity periods on business interruption should be drawing to an end. Let's all use this guide as a driver to move to a minimum of 24-month indemnity periods in most cases. Our support for Flood Re is well known, and we were pleased when the legislation was finalised late last autumn. You spotted the auto cue, haven't you? Our efforts for some time now have been focused on 2 specific areas. Firstly, encouraging the government to invest at the required levels in flood defences across the country. And secondly, working with stakeholders and members on a commercial property scheme for BIBA members that will provide flood cover for most businesses. We were contacted by number 9 Downing Street and met with the Chancellor of the Duchy of Lancaster, Oliver Letwin MP. We had a very positive discussion regarding access to flood insurance for SME businesses. Ever since insurance brokers started meeting in Lloyd's Coffee House in 1688, we have identified our customers' risks and sought solutions from insurers. That is what BIBA has been doing these past few months. So I'm therefore delighted to advise today that we are well on track with the development of the new scheme. We have an MGA ready to go. Our member, Guy Carpenter, is arranging A-rated or better capacity. We've approved the policy wording, and Landmark will provide a state-of-the-art mapping and risk assessment facility. The web platform is well under development, and we hope to roll the scheme out before the autumn. Europe continues to exercise our minds from a regulatory perspective. Commissioner Hill's Green Paper on retail and financial services points the way towards more of a single market. My team has balanced its response between being supportive of the concept and asking for suggestions on how to overcome barriers such as language, currency, taxation, and legal jurisdiction. After 8 years of trekking off to Brussels to lobby for a level playing field for the Insurance Distribution Directive, I'm pleased with the results. David Sparks, BIBA's head of compliance, is keeping a watchful eye on how the European Insurance Supervisor, EIOPA, handles the delegated acts granted to it under the directive. Put simply, making sure that the prescribed documents, the key information document, the KID, and the product information document, the PID, are developed in a way that does not overburden the recipient, the customer, or the firms that have to produce and deliver them. And that the new requirements on product oversight and governance do not create an administrative nightmare for the majority of brokers that do not design products. Now, I cannot let the subject of information disclosure pass without making reference to behavioural economics. Brokers have understood for a while now that the more information you give to a customer, the less inclined they are to do anything with it. I'm sure the people at the FCA understand this, but they only seem to take heed of the results of behavioural economic studies when it suits them. Their work on smarter communications is to be applauded, but there is plenty left to do in this space. The Insurance Council of Australia recently published a report with the aim of enhancing general insurance disclosure. Now, Australians have a reputation for saying it how it is. The report's title sums up the problem perfectly. It's called Too Long, Didn't Read. I kid you not. Finally, on European policy, Graham Trudgill and BIBA's motor panel have been wrestling with the European Court of Justice's decision on the Vanook case now for many months. The potential implications of the CJA EU decision in this case are far-reaching, to say the least. It brings into scope of motor insurance some 43 different types of vehicle that previously didn't need insurance. Kids' electric cars, golf buggies, mobility scooters, ride-on lawnmowers, and even robot vacuum cleaners. It also has the potential to have a catastrophic effect on motorsport. So Graham has been coordinating efforts with the Department for Transport, our European Federation BIPA, and Commissioner Hill's office to seek a surgical amendment to the Motor Insurance Directive. The manifesto forms the basis of our lobbying activities for the year. One issue involves our armed forces. We were contacted a while ago by number 10 Downing Street and the offices of the Prime Minister in relation to our armed forces. The Armed Forces Covenant was developed to allow our armed forces personnel to serve overseas without being penalised for doing so. For example, not facing short-period cancellation charges or finding their no-claims bonus invalidated when they return. BIBA has a number of members who are able to help our armed forces personnel in this way. 10 Downing Street has also been working with us to develop solutions for the sharing economy. I'm pleased to say that BIBA will shortly be launching a free-to-use facility to members to allow them to conduct due diligence on a list of nearly 60 unrated insurers. Using data from AM Best, Litmus Analysis has designed for us an online tool that will give sufficient information for members to decide whether the insurer's financial standing is sufficiently robust or not. This tool, smartly named the BIBA Litmus Test Report, will be available to members via the BIBA website. We'll be launching this facility in response to overwhelming interest from members. A question I'm regularly asked on my travels is, what is the regulator doing about unrated insurers? And my answer is always a simple one. They will ask, why are you using them? The fact is, there is no legal or regulatory requirement for an insurer to have a rating, nor is there a legal or regulatory requirement for an insurance broker only to use rated carriers. Where an insurer is rated, then the due diligence might very well be ascertaining and monitoring that rating. However, when dealing with an unrated insurer, there is no recognised due diligence other than poring over the insurer's report and accounts. This is where the BIBA Litmus Test report will help, and you can find more details and see a mock-up today on the BIBA stand. The latest government figures on cybersecurity breaches are a cause for concern. 65% of large firms detected a cybersecurity breach or attack in the last year. 25% of these experience a breach at least once a month. The most costly breach identified amounted to £3 million, and the average cost of a breach to a large firm is £36,500. The manifesto sets out the commitments we made in terms of cyber insurance. These include acting as a sponsor for those members who wish to join the Cyber Security Information Sharing Partnership, the CISP, promoting the use of the government's Cyber Essentials scheme. In fact, we at BIBA are in the process of signing up for this ourselves, helping to improve recognition of the value, awareness and take-up of cyber insurance protection, and finally, highlighting ways to build resilience, including protection against cyber business interruption and cyber crime risks. To help us with these last two commitments, I'm pleased to announce that we're forming a BIBA Cyber Technical Group, made up of technical experts from some of our expert member firms. If you would like to get involved, please let us know. BIBA already has technical groups looking at motor, property, liability and accident, and trade credit risks. These groups play a key role for us in technical insurance matters. Government's interest in technology is not restricted just to cyber insurance. It has a very keen interest in fintech. One ambition is for the UK to be seen as the undisputed global centre of sustainable financial services and technological innovation, a magnet for investment and a launchpad for international expansion. Government recognises the entrepreneurial spirit of the insurance broking sector. It's looking for brokers to play their part in delivering new products and services to increasingly tech-savvy modern-day consumers. We are engaging with government, the regulator, the European Commission and members on this broad subject. We will keep you abreast of developments. I felt encouraged recently when one of our members launched a sharing economy patch, a great example of innovation rather than disruption, enabling customers to access the cover they need. Completing our hat-trick of calls from Downing Street, number 11 Downing Street has been in touch more than once regarding fintech. And whilst on the subject of number 11 Downing Street, I feel I cannot let the Chancellor's assault on insurance premium tax go without comment. Since my address on this stage last year, we've seen an unprecedented 66% year-on-year increase in IPT. The first time the tax has been increased in consecutive budgets. This is particularly worrying for buyers of motor insurance, where premiums in the BIBA Actuaries Price Index have leapt by more than 10% by the time insurance premium tax is factored in, compared to the same time last year. Let's be clear about a couple of things. Firstly, insurance is not a luxury item. For many, it's a necessity, and for all, it is a wise precaution. And secondly, whilst IPT is a tax collected and remitted by insurers, it is a tax on premiums paid by policyholders, motorists, householders, and businesses large and small. We understand the pressures on the Chancellor to balance the books and stick to his manifesto commitments. However, in a bid to combat rising admission prices, football supporters up and down the land have united behind a ticketing policy for away fans called 20 is plenty. When it comes to IPT, our message is clear: 10 and never again. There was some good news in the budget. BIBA has lobbied long and hard for the regulation of claims management companies to be brought under the scope of the FCA. We were very pleased that the Chancellor announced that this would happen. Another tick in the box against a BIBA member's manifesto lobbying point. Finally, when considering the future, let me say something about BIBA's Young Broker Initiative. Of all the changes at BIBA over the last 3 years, the work we have instigated with our young brokers has been one of the most rewarding. The Young Broker Day, which ran so successfully for the very first time at last year's conference, is running here again tomorrow and has been oversubscribed. Let me take this opportunity to thank the sponsor of Young Broker Day, AXA. We are seeing more and more younger brokers getting involved with our regional committees. It feels more like a revolution than an evolution, and we're delighted about that. So to the young brokers in this audience this morning, especially the one or two who held up that green card for me earlier, If you're not already involved with BIBA but would like to be, please come and track me down or any of the BIBA team and we can put the wheels in motion. Or email me, ceo@biba.org.uk. Our aspiration is to be the go-to place for you, government, politicians, civil servants, regulators, and the press, as you are the go-to place for your customers. Ladies and gentlemen, enjoy the conference.